I've worked on some of the best brands. I've done some of the most iconic work. Even today when I change jobs or when people meet me, they say, okay, so you were with Airtel. Did you do the Har Friend Zaruri Hai campaign?
Right.
And I'm like, yes, I did. There would be an ad that I would have done and I would talk to people about it. So like, oh yeah, we've seen that ad. Okay, you have done it. The funny part is people would say, Acha, so you wrote that ad. I would say no. So you directed that ad. I said no. So then you
what
decide,
did you do?
What did you do in that ad? I was like, I decided. They said, you decided what?
Alright, so when we talk about a particular B school, the first thing that comes to our mind is what is the kind of alumni that B school has produced? What is the kind of profile that that alumni has, or the kind of roles that alumni has bagged from their campus. And to talk more about that, I have with me Aditi here today, who has worked in the industry and has graduated from IMT Ghaziabad 15 years back.
That's correct.
Aditi, thank you very much for joining us in today. The kind of place that we are in, I can see a lot of these faces here. I'm sure some of them you also recognize for sure, because they are part of your batch. 15 years back, when you were part of this institute, when you actually graduated from there, to now, what sort of a change do you see in yourself that has taken place thanks to that B school degree that you had and the long lineage of knowledge and information and experience that you've gathered?
With an interesting fact, today is 18th December. This was the day I was placed with Airtel 15 years back. So this is a very memorable and a very special day for me. 15 years, if you think about it, 15 years, it seems like a very long time. That's the thing about time. It just doesn't feel it's been so long because I've had like a lot of fun during all these years. I've worked on some of the best brands. I've done some of the most iconic work. Even today when I change jobs or when people meet me, they say, okay, so you were with Airtel. Did you do the Har Friend Zaruri Hai campaign?
Right.
And I'm like, yes, I did.
वैसे हर एक फ्रेंड जरूरी होता है, ऐसे हर एक फ्रेंड जरूरी होता है.
I was a very, very ghissu bacha in school and in college. And IMT had this whole system where there were always quizzes going on around the year, and there were 5 marks only.
Right.
And every time I would score a 4 or a 4.5 or a 4.75, that was like a very bad day for me because I had lost 0.25 marks.
Wow.
And that's how I started out. And when I now reflect back, I was like, I used to be so stupid, because really that doesn't matter. There's a lot more that goes into building a career and sustaining a good career. And I think that's the perspective that I've built over the years.
Absolutely. And when we talk about that, 15 years, telecommunication, consumer durables, e-commerce, then right now FMCG. Am I missing out on something?
That's all. Those are the 4 industries.
Right. And how has the experience been so far? You've worked with some very big brands, some very big names right out of IMT. Did you actually expect that to happen when you actually walked in the institute?
I had absolutely no clue. We never had that kind of exposure. I think LinkedIn didn't even exist back in 2005-06.
Right.
If it did, I was definitely not on that. We just knew that we'll get placed into probably a sales role and then we'll do something in marketing. But what happens in marketing didn't have that kind of an information. For the first couple of years, I was running behind FMCG as an industry because whoever I had met had said, marketing is equal to FMCG.
Correct.
So please get into FMCG, then you are a marketeer. You're certified thappe wala marketeer. So I remember I was running behind FMCG for a very long time while in campus, even after campus, when I had gotten placed in Airtel, and 3-4 years later when I was wanting to move out, I was looking at FMCG. And I'm glad FMCG did not happen at that point in time, because
Right.
the way my then career spun out over all these years, it was like really fantastic.
What were some of the moments or incidents that happened during the IMT Ghaziabad days that you can recollect that, made you think that, this is where I should look into and this is where I should make my career in?
I think some of it is to do with my upbringing, because both my parents are journalists. My father is also an author and a poet. So I was a very creative kid. I had done my graduation in computers, and somewhere in the second or the third year, I had realized that I don't want to pursue this because it was too technical for me.
Right.
But while in IMT and when I was going through the entire various marketing subjects, I think that's where I realized that that's what I really like, because marketing is like this perfect blend of data and creativity, and it's the real fusion of that actually makes you a great marketer. So I thought that's what I like doing, and that's how I just kind of built it up from there.
The first step towards that was you joining Airtel, right? The first big sort of, in a way, career-changing opportunity in your life that came your way was joining this telecommunication giant, which was a very big name at that point in time, expanding voraciously throughout the country, right? During that time, what was the kind of role that you were entrusted with? The first kind of role is the most important role that you get out of your B school, right? What was that role like for you, and did you like it in the beginning when you started?
So I was really fortunate, and it was more of a lottery system rather than my doing anything, that we were randomly being placed into different teams. And my management trainee stint was in consumer insights and market research.
Right.
And that's like a fabulous place to start if you want to build a career in marketing.
Right.
Because marketing is the closest to the consumer, and consumer understanding is built in the consumer insights and market research function.
Right.
So that's where I started out. Fortunately or unfortunately, I have never done a sales stint in my life. And for a very long time, I kept hearing that as a marketer, if you've not done sales, you will not go that far in life. Not that I have gone very far, but it's been pretty okay so far. But after the management trainee stint, when we were being handed out our the main role, for a brand role, I was the closest fit because I understood consumers. I had done a couple of consumer studies. I had designed consumer studies, and that was the closest to designing communication versus doing a sales stint or a product stint or any other stint. So I think the first one happened by default, but that really helped shape as to where I went from there on.
And where did you go from there on? You were part of Airtel for the good amount of your career, like 5-6 years you have spent there. You have rose to the ranks where you have worked with a lot of these actors and performers and influencers and whatnot. Tell me a little bit about those stories.
Okay, so I started out with the retail and the below the line function, which is basically your posters, in-shop material, etc. I think the biggest kick that I got was what I saw on my computer and approved or designed, helped the creative agency design on my computer. I actually saw it in the shop a couple of weeks later, and that's like you seeing a manifestation of your work. You start with posters, you understand the communication principles, then you move to doing radio, then print ads, and those were giving me a lot of high, because I would design a hoarding and I would see Delhi plastered with that hoarding the very, a week later. Or I would design and approve a front page ad, and that would be in Times of India, Hindustan Times, all the leading newspapers. And I would be like, wow, like this is the brand that I work with. I decide what Airtel tells consumers. So that used to be a big high. From there on, I moved to working with Airtel Digital TV, and I remember Saif and Kareena were the brand ambassadors, and I was super enthused and excited of working with a celebrity and being part of that, attending a shoot, what does it feel like, the glamour, etc., etc. But I think more than the celebrity, just taking a core consumer insight, seeing how that turns into an idea, from there into a story, and then finally a film that comes at the end of it. That whole journey is extremely beautiful. What stayed with me is every time there would be an ad that I would have done and I would talk to people about it. So like, oh yeah, we've seen that ad. Okay, you have done it. The funny part is people would say, Acha, so you wrote that ad. I would say no. So you directed that ad. I said no. Then
what did you do?
What did you do in that ad? I was like, I decided. They said, you decided what? I said, I helped shape the process from what's the business problem to what's that creative idea to what's the manifestation.
Right.
It's actually a showcase for me because otherwise I've been with Flipkart for let's say 1.5 years. Till today I can go back and pinpoint these 7 ads is what I did and I helped create. So
Correct.
that's there forever.
Right. Let's talk about Flipkart now, since you mentioned that, you jumped to e-commerce from the space that you were in, that was telecommunication, and e-commerce was something that was at the very nascent stage at the time when you joined that. Building that particular, company into a sort of a place where people know about that particular company and people shop and people use it and people make it their daily need. How important do you think a brand manager or a person like you who walk into the system is?
So I think the beautiful thing about both telecom and e-commerce were that we were in a category expansion phase.
Right.
So the job of the brand manager was to tell people, to make people realize A, that they need a mobile connection or they need to shop online, and B, to convince them or to tell them what happens when they do that. So it's kind of a category creation role. It's not something like that you're selling a soap or you're selling oil, where it's more about everybody knows why they need a soap, everybody understands why they need to buy a shampoo. You need to convince them to buy your brand versus the other.
Correct.
This is different. Therefore, brand roles in these companies, which are consumer technology and getting people to adopt technology in a big way, are very, very strategic roles, because you are the growth engine for these organizations. You getting them penetration, you getting the masses into the fold. So these are very strategic and very core roles, and also very fancy and glamorous roles. Glamorous because you get to work with stars, you have big budgets, etc., etc.
And in your journey, what happened next was Micromax and then Nokia, two of the consumer durable companies that everybody who has a cell phone now must be knowing. What was it like, to have that shift from a place where which stores these phones as entities, as products, or tells them that you can buy it from this shop or that shop, to actually working for these kind of consumer durable products and getting them the visibility that it needs, getting them the sales that it needs?
Whether you look at telecom or you look at e-commerce, they are both services, they are not products.
Right.
And again, this was all the feedback that I was getting from seniors, from peers, etc., that product marketing is very different from service marketing. So you must know how to do product marketing because it's a different ball game altogether. So that was one where I wanted to get into the product marketing, where there's a physical, tangible product to sell, there's a supply chain, there is an R&D. It has its own set of complications. So that was one. The other was, I think I was 8 years, 9 years, but when I moved to Micromax, that was also my first leadership position. So till then I was in an individual contributor role. Micromax was it was a head of marketing for U Mobiles, and I had a 7-8 member team. That's how I look at both Nokia and Micromax.
Right.
I think they changed the trajectory from going vertical to becoming more horizontal.
Absolutely. And from Nokia, the shift that happened in your life, where you currently are in right now, a brand that we all know, that we all have seen growing up, the crazy ads that we have seen, the amazing jingles that we have sang for years, which is Coca Cola.
Coke, frankly, so when I say Coca Cola India or the Coca Cola company is a house of brands. There are 40-45 beverage brands within Coca Cola.
Wow, this is a new thing. I did not know
Yeah,
this.
so they have Thumbs Up, they have Sprite, they have Maaza, they have
40 brands?
Milkmaid, many brands.
Wow.
40 may be an overstatement, maybe 30-35 brands, but it's a total beverage company. But for me, as personally, as an individual, I was always in love with Coca-Cola, the brand.
Right.
Not so much the others, but Coca-Cola as a product, because that's my favorite drink, Coke Zero. And Coca-Cola as a brand was like one of the, how you make a bucket list, and Coca-Cola was always one of the brands that I wanted to work for. So that is one, and therefore when this opportunity came, I was like, I have to do it.
How crazy does your day look right now? What are the kind of responsibilities that you shoulder, and how do you look back at life, seeing that this is exactly what I wanted when I actually signed up for a MBA course?
So what I handle now, I think in a way, I am sort of back to where I started from a roles responsibility. So my role is to look at the consumer and create beautiful stories that make Coke a part of their everyday life multiple times in a day, hopefully, or a week. That's my core role. As we say, we are in the business of building rituals, and if we can integrate our brands and products into consumers' lives and build relevance at the right occasion, then our job is done.
Right.
So my role involves around finding the relevant role of my brand into various consumption occasions, and the entire framework is to look at what are the typical moments in today in a youth's life today, and what role can the brand play. And there is a brand role and then there is a product role, and we need to build both. So yes, it's challenging because there are a lot of options today, but I think therein the challenge lies the beauty as well, because somebody is going to pick up a Coca Cola versus any other beverage out there because the brand has a power. More than the product, the brand has the power, and that's my role. So I need to make the brand so salient, so relatable, and so relevant to the consumer in his moment of consumption that he or she does not think about any other brand, he thinks about my brand. And that's the beauty, and that's the challenge.
Lovely. That was some great words, Aditi, there. Aditi, when you look back, into your life, 15, 17 years back, when you were actually part of IMT Ghaziabad, and when you walked in, I'm sure you were a different Aditi at that point in time. And the Aditi that I am speaking to right now, how much of a personal and professional difference do you think has happened in all these years?
I think a lot of perspective and a lot of maturity has come in just by being stuck there. I faced adversity in my life in professional scenarios for no fault of mine. I have been victimized. I have also not been victimized when someone else got victimized, and I just got lucky and was, just scraped the surface. I think when you stick it out and when you are there long enough, you see enough things, right and wrong, black and gray, that you understand that it's all part of life and you become used to it. So 15 years back or maybe 17 years back when I joined IMT, I thought hard work, competence, lethal combination, I will be successful. It doesn't work like that. There are a lot many more things that play a role in someone's success in life. It's just not hard work and talent. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I have learned and internalized and started playing out a little differently than just focusing on those two parameters in life. So,
last question that I have for you today before we let me go. In a B school student's life, in an aspirant's life, one important factor is to understand what they're good at, right? Make that choice after they know that, this is where I will be good. What would be your advice to those students or aspirants who are not very sure about this whole career path, not sure about where to start and how to actually end up in a career that they have always dreamt for?
The more information that you have, the more clarity you get. But information is just not getting that information from the internet or from third-party resources, but also speaking to people and understanding various experiences that people have had so that you can understand more and gain clarity about what you want to do. But it's a process. So some people get it and some people don't. And it's a process and you should be able to just stick it out. Ultimately, I think we all must do what makes us happy, because sticking at something which is not fulfilling, you can do it for a short period of time, you'll be burnt out. You might be successful, but you'll not be happy. I would say stick it out, figure out what you want to do, and then stick it out, because if you're enjoying it, then it's just worth it.
Absolutely. If you enjoy it, it's worth it. And that's where we draw the line for this particular video. Thank you very much, Aditi, for sharing these information, for sharing these insights from your life that you have seen, and that's certainly going to help people who are watching this video. That brings us to the end of this particular video where we were talking with the alumni members of IMT Ghaziabad. If you want to know more about this particular institute, there's a link in the description. You can check that out. You can figure out more alumni members like Aditi there on that particular platform. Tell us in the comments below what you liked about this episode, and do tell us what you want us to improve on in the next videos. Thank you very much.